Hello, let's continue our tutorial. We are still talking about the indication. Indication about in the field of rehabilitation, we stressed already, and now we are in the vascular disorders. Those vascular disorders, we've seen there are indications in peripheral artery disorders. Peripheral artery disorders, all those cases of diabetic foot syndrome, of pain, of restless leg syndrome, of shorter walking distances, all that can lead to amputation in case of critical ischemia, and IVT can do a hell of a good job in this. Now we are going to talk about the venous congestions. Venous, that's just the other side of the arteries. Arteries and veins is a complex system. It belongs together, arteries and veins. Regarding the veins, did you know that 90% of the population is suffering on weak veins? 90% of the entire adult population in the industrialized countries. This is the result of the Bonn vein study. Here it is. You will get it later on as an attachment. You should give a look to it. 59% of all the adults have isolated telangiectasis or reticular veins. You know how it looks like? It looks like this, telangiectasis. 59%. Another 14.3% of the adult population have varicose veins. Varicose veins without any further sign of chronic insufficiency like thrombosis or heat. That looks like this. Both the telangiectasis and the varicose veins, they are grouped as a primary venous insufficiency, PVI. Please keep in mind, PVI, primary venous insufficiency. Now we go ahead. 13.4% of the adult people in industrialized countries, they show edema, edema associated with venous changes. What are edemas? Edemas looks like this, and you have it if you can press a dent into the tissue. The edema, 13.4%, much more women than men, by the way. It is every six, and every sixth woman is suffering from that. 3.3% of the adult population, 3.3 every 30s, is suffering from skin damages, from dermatosclerosis, or like here, eczema, color change on the skin, here the Blanche syndrome. And these skin damages, they will lead to the latest stage of that venous congestions, to the crural ulcer, ulcus cruris venosum or florid ulcer. And this looks like this. Now we are talking about wounds which will no more proper heal. These are the stages of the chronic venous insufficiency, CVI. Stage 1 are the edema, stage 2 the skin damages, and stage 3 the ulcer. This is what we are differentiating: PVI, primary venous insufficiency, and chronic insufficiency. What we've learned is a huge amount of people suffering on that. Now we're going to give a look to the physiological background of the PVI and or CVI. What we should know is that we are Homo sapiens sapiens, and as a Homo sapiens sapiens, we are first of all Homo erectus, upstanding man walking on two legs with a heart that is nowadays 150 meters above the earth. And the heart 150 meters above the earth is, sorry, too high. And that meaning we are a little bit of miss creature in nature. As long as we're walking on four legs, like our next neighbors in the forest, the apes, the chimpanzees, or the bonobos, as long as we were walking on four legs, the heart was 50 centimeters above the ground, and there was no problem for pushing, sucking. But since we are upright walking men, the heart is too high, and the question is, why should the blood flow uphill? The heart, our engine, it is good to push, but is not so good in sucking. Okay, there is a solution, and the solution has a name, and the name is valves, venous valves, vein valves. Here we see the vein, and there is a valve, so it looks like this is when the valve is open, and this is when the valve is closed. And where there are valves, we need a power, and the power supply for our venous system is mostly the so-called physiological muscle pump. Physiological muscle pump. This is how it can look. Here the muscle is released, relaxed. Here it is tensed. And as you can see, when the muscle is tensed, it squeezes the blood back to the heart, always proximal, back to the heart. And when it releases, when it relaxes, the blood will flow from deeper part. That's the way it is. But there are the risk factors that lead to our venous congestion in PVI or CVI, primary venous congestion or chronic venous congestion insufficiency. The risk factor number one is lack of movement. Do not move sufficiently, it makes sense, it's clear that we do not have sufficient physiological muscle pump, and as a result of not moving sufficiently, we catch those spider veins, those varicose veins, and the later on diseases. Not enough movement, or moving with the wrong shoes, always walking in the high heels, ladies. It's not good for the physiological muscle pump because muscles are stressed, are tense all the time. So lack of movement, number one. Number two, the reason for PVI and CVI is a dysfunction of the physiological muscle pump. What does it mean? You are moving sufficiently, but your physiological muscle pump, it has a lag. It doesn't work sufficiently. And there are two reasons. Number one, due to a weak connective tissue. What is the connective tissue? Whenever we tense the muscle shortens and it squeezes, it presses the vein and it pushes the vein against the skin. And the skin, there should be the connective tissue, and that should be strong. These collagen and elastin fibers, they should be strong, and only if the skin is stable and strong, the physiological muscle pump can squeeze the veins sufficiently. But naturally, the connective tissue should be strong, but due to alimentation, lifestyle, it is not too many animal proteins as one of the reasons. And all this leads to the cellulite syndrome, orange peel skin syndrome, which is a pre-stage of the chronic venous insufficiency, of the primary venous insufficiency. Weak connective tissue due to alimentation or lifestyle, Another one is the genetic reason. The result is the same. The valves do no longer close. Here we have it, no longer close. And there is not sufficient venous backflow. We are going to talk about the therapies, but for that the video will not get too long. I will suggest to make a short break here and we continue with part 2 immediately.